Matthew 27, verse 46, Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" His last recorded words, your church rushes past them every Easter. These are not minor words. They are the loudest moment in the entire crucifixion narrative. Matthew says he cried out with a loud voice. This was not a whisper, it was a shout. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. He spoke in Aramaic, his mother tongue, not Hebrew, not Greek, the language of home. This was not a theological statement. This was a man at the edge. Your church has a ready answer. Jesus was quoting Psalm 22. It begins with those exact words. The cry was liturgical, a reference, not a real experience of abandonment. Examine that argument. Psalm 22 ends in triumph. God rescues the sufferer. If Jesus was quoting the whole psalm, he was also claiming the rescue. But he died before the rescue came. He died in the cry. Mark records the same cry, word for word. Mark is the oldest gospel, written closest to the events. Two independent accounts of a man asking why God abandoned him. Luke records completely different last words. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. Peaceful, trusting, no cry of abandonment. Luke either did not know or chose not to record it. John records different last words again. It is finished. 3 words, triumphant, purposeful, no abandonment, no father committing. John's Jesus dies in control. Completely different scene. 4 Gospels. 4 different last words. They cannot all be verbatim. One of them is what he actually said. 3 are theological interpretations. Your church reads all 4 as equally true. The darkness. Matthew records 3 hours of darkness over the land before the cry. Something is happening in that darkness. Something your church turns into atmosphere. The text treats it as real. Jürgen Moltmann. The Crucified God. 1974. His argument, the cry of dereliction, is the most theologically important moment in the New Testament. God experienced the absence of God. On the cross, what if the cry of dereliction is not a problem to be explained away? What if it is the most honest moment in the Gospels? A man dying in genuine darkness asking the real question. Every person who has ever prayed and felt nothing in return has prayed the same prayer. My God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus prayed it too. Your church rarely tells you that. The lament tradition in the Hebrew Bible is enormous. Psalms of abandonment, Job questioning God, Jeremiah cursing the day he was born. The Bible is full of people asking why. Jesus joins that tradition. Your church trained you to hear the resurrection as the answer to the cross, but resurrection came later. In the moment of the cry, there was no resurrection, there was only the question. The veil of the temple tore in 2 at the moment of death. Matthew records it. Scholars debate its meaning, but the symbolism is clear. Something between God and humanity was broken in that moment. What does it mean that the Son of God died feeling abandoned by God? Theologians have wrestled with this for 2,000 years. Your church gave you the answer without showing you the question. Tell me in the comments, has your church ever sat honestly with the cry of dereliction? Or did they rush to the resurrection? Does this change how you read the cross? The next video, Paul. He never met Jesus. He built half your theology. His letters contradict Jesus 14 specific times. Your pastor preaches Paul more than Jesus. The verses are in your Bible. Jesus asked the question every suffering person asks, why? He asked it on the cross, in his mother tongue, at full volume, and your church turns it into a Bible study point. Honest theology does not skip the cry. It enters it. It asks what it means to follow a Deon God who experienced what God-forsakenness feels like from the inside. The resurrection does not erase the cry, it follows it. There is a sequence. The cry came first, the silence came second. Whatever came third, it did not undo the first two. Walter Brueggemann argues the church's avoidance of lament is a theological crisis. When we skip the cry of dereliction, we tell suffering people their honest questions have no place in faith. If Jesus could ask why God had abandoned him, so can you. That is not a lack of faith. That is the most honest prayer in the entire New Testament. Your church should have told you. The darkness lasted 3 hours, from noon until 3. That is a long time to hang in darkness asking why. 3 hours of silence before the cry. Think about what those 3 hours felt like. After the cry, Jesus dies. Matthew says he breathed his last. No angelic rescue, no visible divine intervention. The cry went up. The silence continued. He died in the silence. Read Matthew 27 yourself. All of it. Verses 45 through 50. Sit with it before you reach for the explanation. The text deserves to be read before it is managed. Whatever you conclude, the cry is in your Bible. Matthew recorded it, Mark confirmed it, Jesus said it, and your church has spent 2,000 years making it mean something manageable. Faith that cannot hold the cry of dereliction is fragile faith. Faith that can sit with my God, why have you forsaken me, and still believe, that is the strongest faith the Bible describes. Subscribe if this is the conversation your church never gave you. Every video on this channel exists for the questions your faith deserves to ask. They were always in your Bible. The next video. Paul never met Jesus. He wrote more of your New Testament than anyone, and his letters contradict what Jesus taught on 14 specific points with verses. In your Bible, my God, why have you forsaken me? 7 words, the most honest prayer in the New Testament. Your church gave you everything except permission to pray it. He was 33 years old. He had spent 3 years teaching about a God who could be trusted. He died asking whether that God was there. Your church calls that moment the atonement. Darkness, silence, abandonment, then death. Your Easter sermon starts at the resurrection, but the story starts in the dark, and the dark deserves to be read before the light. 2,000 years later, people still ask why, still pray into silence, still feel forsaken. Jesus asked it first, from a cross, in his mother tongue, at the top of his voice. Read Matthew 27, verse 46 tonight. Read it in Aramaic if you can. Read it slowly. Read it as if he meant it. And then ask your church why they always explain it before you can feel it. The church needs the resurrection to be triumphant, so it rushes past the cross. But the cross was not triumphant. The cross was a man dying in the dark asking why. That is what your Bible says. Whatever your theology, he said it. My God, why have you forsaken me? It is in Matthew. It is in Mark. It is in your Bible. Someone chose not to preach it. Now you know it is there. He asked why. He died without an answer. 3 days later, something happened that changed everything. But the why was real. The silence was real. Both deserve to be in your faith. My God, why have you forsaken me? He asked it. You can ask it. Your Bible says he asked it first. Whatever answer you find or do not find, you are in good company.